I mean, like, if you're working for DC Marvel, they want digital shit, you hand them digital shit. I mean, whatever's essentially when you're talking comics, you're talking speed. You got to do whatever what is ever faster for you and is paying the bills. Now, if you're talking about just what my personal preference is, my personal preference is a little bit of everything. And that's just because I really don't believe any one artist should lock themselves into doing any one thing. You know,
Right.
you don't see like yeah, chefs will pick a cuisine or style, right?
Right.
But they'll infuse it with other stuff. So you might have French, French Chinese cuisine, or Mediterranean meats this or that. So like I always say, mix it up as much as possible. You want to treat your art like I treat my art almost like a magic trick. I never really want anyone to be able to completely figure out how I did it. I think that's
Right.
the best. Like when you watch a movie, those are special effects, but I don't always want to be able to tell how did they do it. Like I just like to be a little like amazed sometimes. And I could, and in terms of movies, there was a movie that came out a few years back called The Knowing, which most people seem to hate, but I actually enjoyed it. And there's a scene in the movie. I know a lot about visual effects. I've been reading Cine Effects magazine since like the fucking 80s, dude. And so there's this one scene where a subway train derails and plows through people, And I know the movie didn't have the largest budget, and so they did a lot of it practically or with models or whatever. But the blending of that one shot was so good, dude, that I was amazed. I was like a lot of people think like that one plane crash. There's a plane crash scene in that movie too. That's pretty good. But there's a lot of really good visual effects, and I like to know that like Inception when they actually built a rig and spun the room around, so you don't know where the wire
Right.
work stops and starts, and like, they're on wires. They're not flipping a building around, but at the same time you don't quite know how they're doing it. And so I say, as much as humanly possible, try to mix it up. If you're just challenging yourself or you want to create I say if you want to create art, you need to think artistically. If you want to just, make art to get paid, I mean, generally it's clean, it's fast, it's as, simple as possible. That can generally lead to that so-called, generic look, right? That sort of uber airbrushed kind of like
Right.
classic. But I mean, hey, that's the game you got to play when you're in that world.
Well, when
Not every.
you
Go ahead.
well, when you do a lot of digital art, let's say when you're working for your various companies, how hard is it for you to go back to the traditional? I mean, do you feel like you lost a part of your
No, we talked about this before. I would say what happens is when I'm not drawing at all, it gets harder and harder. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
also feel that if you only do digital, you will lose a sense of proportion on the page. You go to sketch, your shit's gonna be all over the fucking place because you're
Uh-huh.
used to sketching all over the place, zooming in and out, stuff like that. So, it's best to always like what I try to do now is get my initial concepts down. See, what I've never been good at, Brandon, my entire life is I'm not the guy who goes to a con, opens up your book and draws the most perfect fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like every
Right.
line, boom, 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 is just, oh, there you go. I'm pretty loose when I start, and I like to sort of develop poses and sketches and stuff. And I mean, that's what always appealed to me about 2D animation was that's a lot of that process is the key animators like Glenn Keane when he's working on Little Mermaid, those key animations are really rough. They're not you're based off reference and stuff, and he's always exaggerating, but the lines aren't perfect. They don't look like the movie. Someone has to go and clean that stuff up.
Right.
So like convention drawing's always been tough for me because like I tend to want to get something down and then work it. You know what I mean? Maybe even print it back down, reproportion it, print it back out, and work it. And sometimes I can't always do that.
Mhm.
So convention drawing's always been tough for me on that angle. Most people I found don't care. Even if it's super rough and fucked up for some reason at a con, it's like acceptable. But it usually drives me nuts, because I see my
Right.
pictures and I'm like, ah, it looks like shit. So, but um, but I do feel that if you only lean one way toward the other, you're doing yourself a grand disservice because it's the same with coloring. Like if you like to color digitally, you should be at least coloring with markers,
Right.
here and there because you need to limit, your ability to do whatever you want. So it's just good practice to give yourself some reins. Like right now, I'm doing a lot of, commissions, and I got a big digital piece on top of all my suaves to do for Game Cave. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. I'm finding for me right now, like to add any more complexity to my schedule is I'm writing now the first hour or two a day,
Uh-huh.
and in that after about an hour or two of doing that, uh, I can get a little bit of a headache because it's working a certain part of my brain. And then when I go to draw, I'm all fucked up. Like I literally have to go take a walk, maybe a shower, clean the kitchen, something completely different for at least like almost an hour, and then I have to
Right.
come back. So it's eating into my day, but I'm trying to train my brain to switch sides. So because I have to do a lot of writing now. So yeah, yeah, but you should be doing everything, dude. Should be sketching, coloring, whatever it takes. Even if you're not great at it, you don't have to be Jim Lee. You know.
Right. And I mean, you could always like I know you do this, and I've just now started doing it where you'll sketch out the rough idea on the computer, print it out, and then define it on paper with pencil. That's where you go back in and you do pencil lines, and so you're still using the best of both worlds, and you're not just sticking to one thing, and then rescan it back in to color it.
Yeah, but
So
sometimes I do completely digital pieces. I mean, you see that in the tutorial
right,
sections. But it took a long while to be able to get to do that. And there's reasons I do that. When I want to throw lots of detail, or if I want a professionally inked looking thing and I don't want it to look, like a piece of art, like I want it to look a little bit more professional, then I'll go do that. Takes longer though, you know.
right,
It's not an easy process. Well, a lot of people look at, well, what brushes to use? I'm like, look, aside from the brushes, the question is, are you willing to spend this kind of time because it does eat up time. There's nothing quick or simple about it, you know. So, and you had a question about tablets or something?
um, mm, what would you if you had the money? What do you recommend for everybody to get? Depending on money wise, let's say
For what?
for digital art purpose. I mean, there's a lot of people that follow your podcast like me that do a lot of conventions, a lot of want to do comic book art. Do you recommend a full tablet in front of you or a smaller bamboo? I mean,
Well, I
do
always
you,
recommend you spend the least amount of money you have to when you're learning. So you're gonna want at least a coloring tablet. Either that's an Intuos or it's a bamboo. I don't really care.
uh-huh,
Um, you know, what I don't recommend is you going and buying the biggest one there is, thinking that if you spent an extra $800, that's gonna like help you get better.
right,
Usually the 6x8 is a good size. And I know because I've made all these mistakes. Like way back in 2001, if you're old enough to remember and you weren't a little kid, the government gave us all refund checks, if you can believe it. So I took my refund. Can you believe that? The government gave us a refund.
right,
So we have too much of your money. Here, have it back. So I took that refund check and I got me a 9x12 Intuos tablet shipped right from New York near the Trade Center about 3 weeks before the big deal, and so like that was eerie. But
right,
but I got this giant 9x12 Intuos too, and it was too big. I mean, I made myself use it. You know what I mean? I
right,
got my money's worth out of it, all the way up until about 2008. But it was too large. So
right.
6x8 was about the better deal.
I found a Cintiq 21 UX online from a art professor, I think it in California somewhere, one of the art institutes, and I mean, I only paid maybe 1,000 on it or less, and normally they go for like 2,000, and I mean, I love it, and at the time I had the money where I could have went and bought the, I don't know what it is, the 24X or whatever it is, the all black one, but I mean, spending the extra 2 grand or whatever it would have been wouldn't have made me a better digital artist,
Well, you
using
would
the
have at
21
least gotten
UX.
a warranty if you're into that sort of thing.
Right,
But that being said, the warranty is only good for 2 years. So, like, I got my 20-inch USX whatever in 2008. That's when I switched. And I got that new, so I had the warranty. But then the cable started going out last year, so they last about 4 years either way. It's just a little
right,
cable thing in the back, so it didn't really matter. But I definitely recommend that if it's in great condition, get it used or secondhand because you save a lot of money. But if you're nervous about that sort of thing, at the very least, you don't have to get the 24 giant thing. It's not, to be honest, these
right,
things take up a lot of space. I think people just don't have an understanding of how big this stuff is. When you do get it, like you got a 21, that's bigger than what I have. The 20 inch I have is it's big enough, bro. It's bigger than any 11 by 17 piece of paper I have lying around. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
It takes up a whole desk in one
yeah,
of my corners. It's huge, and it gets
yes,
hot. It gets very
yeah,
hot. I have to have a fan on it.
yeah. I mean, it's great. Well, you live in the desert, so if you lived to a
Right.
cooler climate, that would keep you warm at night, which is mine has kept me plenty warm in the middle of the night. So, but yeah, my advice is always spend the least amount of money possible. You know, try this stuff out if you can. You know, go to a one of those art colleges and get the guest tour, see if you can try some of the equipment to get a feel for it. I don't know, demo a
Right.
unit, whatever you can do.
They
You know,
have them at
try.
cons too. I mean, I've seen Cintiq set up at conventions where you can come up and draw on them, and they let you play around with them, and they want to show them off and
Because to be perfectly
all
honest,
that.
drawing digitally isn't easy. And matter of fact, it's kind of like when you went from like mouse to Intuos, and a lot of
Uh,
people don't actually end up liking it, especially all digital. Like most people are going to take a picture, scan it, and trace over it. You know, drawing completely digitally is I did it for a reason because I was really suffering from carpal tunnel at the time, from just drawing too much. If you've ever seen my pencils, they're detailed sometimes, Um,
too detailed.
so I was doing a lot of it, and I was really just carpal tunnel. So this allowed me around that, which I don't have. But yeah, drawing digitally is not easy. You could end up feeling like you bought a $2,000 paperweight. Is what I usually tell people.
Right.
So, and it's not going to magically give you art powers. It's not. I think that scene from Nacho Libre where he thinks if he drinks from the eagle's egg, he'll get eagle powers.
Right.
Like that's what I always think about. People go, "What brush do you have?" or "What equipment do you have?" And I'm like, "Eagle powers, come to me." It's like,
Well, I mean,
I'm like,
that's what I thought. I mean, when I went and got mine, I'm like, oh, this is a game changer right here. This is it. I'm in the big leagues now. I got one of these, and then I hook it up, and I'm like, shit, what do I do now? I
yeah,
started drawing on it, and I'm like, this feels nothing like paper and pencil.
yeah, and I
How
still
hard do I
suck,
push?
right? Like, yay, nothing's changed, it's worse. Right? And you're like, what did I do? Like, can I get my money back? Oh, they gave this one to me.
But I mean, I love it now. I mean, as I'm learning how to use it and what the best ways are, but I still love to draw traditional, scan it in, and then go back over it digitally. But I mean, I can't just go straight digital. I mean, like, that's, you can, but I'm not there yet. But
Well, I
I know
locked
I've
myself
spent
in a
time
room
where
and told myself there was no way but to do it. So,
I've spent plenty of time where I draw digital for just weeks, all digital, and then I try to draw on pencil and paper, and it just looks like shit. I couldn't do it. I lost the feel. So I mean, like you're saying, you got to mix it up. You got to keep it fresh and just keep trying different things. It's like when I paint, I use spray paint, I use acrylics, I use watercolors. I mean, just anything. But so I guess the lesson of that is don't let yourself get stuck with just one thing. Because
yeah,
maybe
don't
that
specialize in anything. That's my personal advice to every
right,
artist. You want to keep yourself, employable, know a little bit of everything. Whether it's printing, graphic design, logo work, painting. Everyone wants to paint you in a corner. They're always going to be like, "Oh, that's the guy that does that." You know what I'm talking about, right? Like
right,
you go, "Oh, that
right.
guy does that," or "That girl, she does that one thing." You
I
know?
got I got known as the splatter guy for the longest time because I like to use spray paint and then splatter or even mist on all my art prints, and then after a while, people are coming to conventions like, oh, can you put some splatter on this one? Can you just do your thing where you flick the brush on it with the splatter, make it look like a blood splatter on a Deadpool? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I can do that. And then all my stuff started. It seemed like I relied on the style. That comes back to me working on my basics now, but relying on the style of splatter, being known as that one guy who does that thing. You know, but yeah,
Well, you can parody yourself after a while. You start to
yeah,
become a caricature of maybe an idea or something. So I find that even though I think the thing I probably get is Rob draws like fun art. You know what I mean? I think, and fun can mean a lot of different things. I just never want to be like grouped into. And then I'm like, well, have you seen some of this gore shit over here? I don't know how fun that is.
right,
But I would give that a fair assessment. I mean, we're always gonna have a vision. Your mind will create in a certain way. But Um, but yeah, don't limit yourself. Do a little bit of everything. I mean, like I said, I've heard people try to like, oh, what's Rob do? I'm like, yeah, what do I do? You tell me. You know what I mean? And I like the fact that not a lot of people really can, you know, pin that down. Now, that can be a little trouble when you're looking for work because it's like, generally speaking, guys are like, well, we're looking for this one thing. Well, then now that you know how to do a lot of stuff, you just send them samples of that kind of stuff. You go make that kind of stuff because if you have the range, then you're not limited to being stuck with only what you can do. You can then tailor a portfolio for a job as opposed to sending your portfolio and hoping it works out.
Right.
That's about the best advice I can ever give. I mean, your portfolio is like a resume. You tailor your resume for the job you want. You don't just send in everything you've ever done and hope that they see something on there they like and they give you a job. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. So, oh yeah. Alrighty, dude. What else we got? We got to wrap this up. What else we got?
Thor, the Thor movie.
Yeah. What about it?
Would you like to talk about it?
I don't know. Would you like to talk about the Thor movie? You're the one who brought it up.
I would like to talk about it. Okay, let me try this again. Rob, did you like the Thor movie? Was it entertaining and pleasing to you?
In 2011, it was better than I thought. Oh, you're talking about the sequel? The one that just came out this weekend?
Let me try this again. Rob, did you enjoy Thor, The Dark World, that just came out
Oh, the
last
Dark
Friday?
World. I was all confused. I thought you meant
Right.
Thor, the movie,
Right,
like,
my mistake. I mean, I clearly wasn't specific. That was
well,
my
you need to,
my
man.
fault.
We're in phase 2 now, damn it. Like you
Right.
got to get with the fucking times, bro.
Right.
Did I like the movie? Yeah, I liked the movie. I thought it was fun. I think I saw it last weekend. Overall, I thought it was a fun movie, as most of the Marvel movies are. However, that being said, like most Marvel movies, they take dramatic moments and turn them into poop jokes or
Co-
something. Like
right. A little bit too much comedy.
it's not the comedy. I had this one girl go off on me, like on Twitter the other day. I said, basically, I said I like the movie. I just don't like what they did with Skarsgård's character, Eric or whatever, the older guy. They turned
Oh
him into
yeah.
like
You
Marcus
mean
from
wait,
India.
wait, wait. Spoiler alert. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, spoilers that the actor plays the character who was already in the movie. So, oh yeah, spoilers that they did something weird to his character, which is in the
Right.
fucking trailer. But all right, so spoilers, hey guys. From now on, we're always talking about spoilers. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. How's your Walking Dead?
I
Yeah, just,
haven't
just,
watched
just.
this week's yet, so I
Oh,
might just be
oh yeah.
quiet.
Okay. Well, I should. Okay, let me go look it up. And spoilers. Don't listen. So anyway, yeah, they in Indiana Jones Raiders, there was this character named Marcus. Spoilers for Indiana Jones. So,
Wait,
spoilers for the
is he
Bible.
the fat
So,
guy with the?
no, he was the professor that ran the university that Indy worked at. He comes in and talks to him. And he was talking to him about the Ark of the Covenant. He's like, Indy, this is, unlike anything you've ever hunted before. And so there was a sense that Marcus used to be Indiana Jones. He even says if he was half his age, he would go himself, but he's too old. He's kind of a somewhat sinister. It's somewhat sinister character. The way the John Williams music played, the way the actor delivered the line, wasn't a lot, but it gave you the sense that there was a lot more to this guy. And then when you see him again in Indiana Jones 3, the Last Crusade, he's a bumbling moron of a character. He's got camels and he's acting like a dumbass and he's just a
Right.
big, and it's like it always pissed me off that they took this one character who seemed to have a lot to him and they just turned him into a buffoon. And I sort of feel like now that's what they did with, that character. But in the first movie, I think we had to talk about this before, sort of felt that, there was to me, at the heart of it, if you could just remove Natalie Portman from the picture, it's
Right.
a father-son story, right? Two sons,
Right.
two fathers, a God, two gods, and a godfather, and then the human father, and Thor sort of learns from the other, when he's human, right? He sort of transfers, and here's this guy who's always believed in this other stuff, and then he gets to meet, a god, and this guy. I don't know. This just was his father-son story, and then that's completely wiped out with that character in this movie, and he's basically turned into, Bill. He's like, Bill Nye meets Walter White, running around in his tidy whities and shit. So,
He's the comic relief.
but it comes at like all sorts of points where people die and then all of a sudden we're making jokes, and I'm just like, so this girl she comes across and she's like, she meant well, and she's like, why? I'm like, I just don't like the way they treat this character. She's like, well, that's how they do it in all the Marvel movies. I'm like, that's not true. They didn't do that in Captain America. Like in Captain America, when Bucky died, he wasn't making jokes 3 seconds afterward. Like
Right.
when even when he, crashed the ship at the end. Spoilers for Captain America, but after I already gave spoilers, but they didn't do that. That seems to be like something that was added. It's almost like they're trying to add like Josh jokes or something, because Josh knows how to
Right.
kind of like add that, but it's more like the Agents of Shield stuff now, right? Where we're getting these jokes all over the place, and Iron Man 3 where characters supposedly die, but then we got big jokes afterward, So, um, that's just it's like American humor. It's very ADD for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to really deal with that. So I said they didn't do it in Captain America. And then it was funny because she's like, "Well, I prefer, the Marvel movies to the serious Nolan and Watchmen movies." I'm like, I wasn't even talking about that. I said I liked the fucking movie. You just jump ship.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying I want every movie to be serious and doom and gloom, dude. I just want the characters to be consistent on some level, or the narrative to be consistent on some level. Like, if you're in the middle of a fucking moment where, spoilers, Thor's mom dies, and then 2 seconds later I got this guy in his underwear running around, literally, like, time it. It's like 3 minutes. Or
Yeah,
like
they
right
didn't
when Loki
really. There was no
supposedly dies.
remorse.
Yeah, Loki supposedly dies, and then Skarsgård, Eric, whatever his name is making Loki dead jokes. You know what I mean? Like, that's when
He's
you
like, "Oh,
know
your
he's not
brother didn't
dead.
come," and he's like, "No, he's dead." And they're like, "Oh, that's good."
Yeah,
So,
he's like
anyways,
awesome.
we got these elves coming to kill us.
And then they're like, oh, they're kind of making jokes, and everyone kind of laughs, but it's different than when, like, spoilers for Gravity, right? But in Gravity, when all hope is lost, the Clooney character shows back up, and you get this like moment of lightness and fun in a really tense moment, like all hope is lost. You get this sense of life and humor, which lightens the scene. That's to me that's a real brilliant way, and that's an effective use of humor, you know, in a film to also one enhance the drama, but then bring the audience back a bit so it doesn't get too dark, and it allows the characters to make transformations. But here, I believe it's purely done just for shock value. It may as well be Jackass. So,
I
not like Jackass, but whatever.
When the ships are flying around and they have those Star Wars gunners at the top of their thing, I felt like it reminded me a lot of Star Wars. Even the ships, the noises they made reminded me of Star Wars.
It's
I
because
just
Skywalker sound's doing the sound, dude. I mean,
Right, and it just I don't they didn't explain to me how this world of mythical ride horses, drink big gallons of beer and whatever Yale, whatever the fuck they do. All of a sudden they have these spaceships and gunner pilots, and the top of their castle opens up and there's dudes shooting laser guns and shit at people.
well,
It
I
just
know
came out
that's
of
where
nowhere.
you're like, hey, look, if I was a kid, this would be a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like they're sort of like at like the Doctor Who kind of. You don't watch Doctor Who, but
No,
there's this sort of like blend of like Doctor Who. You just kind of roll with it. You know what I mean? Like you just like, well, it goes. But that being said, I mean, yeah, there's a tremendous opportunity to experience what it's like to live in the world. Like when he leaves in the beginning of the movie, he leaves that Asian guy in his village. You don't
right.
really get to live with that guy or see what it's like to live day to day in Asgard. You know what I mean? Where they're not gods, they're just normal folk, fighting incredible creatures. Instead, you sort of just have this giant adventure, and maybe that normal life is a little too much for what they're trying to do. I don't know. I feel that movie was heavily constructed in the editing room, and my proof of that is when in the very beginning of the movie they instantly cut out to the news broadcast of Eric running around in his underwear at Stonehenge. And then
Hmm.
at the end of the movie, you're watching that all the way over again, seeing the exact same shots, the exact same jokes. And I got a feeling that that shot in the beginning, the editing style for that is completely different than anything in the film. So I feel that that was something that was added after the fact, so people would remember this character, later
Right.
on. You know what I mean? Like, seems to me like a test screening change, whether it was with an audience or management or something. So who knows, dude? The question was, did I feel like I got my money's worth? Yeah, I mean, I felt like I got my money. I mean, really, the movie comes alive when Loki shows up, which just proves that
Right.
like the second he's back on the screen, then because my whole problem with a lot of these films, and I think we talked about this on Pacific Rim. You asked me today if I watched the Green Arrow show, and I said
Yeah,
no.
Arrow.
Yeah, and the reason why I don't watch a lot of this stuff is I like my heroes to have flaws. Like one of my favorite films of all time is Big Trouble in Little China. Shows you my age. Most of these kids probably don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
Netflix at everyone. Netflix or Amazon Instant Video, maybe.
And that's like the hero with so many flaws. He never does anything really. Like when you think about it, he does one thing, and that's like the thing that really matters. But for the most part, he doesn't do jack shit. He's just a flawed character. But he is a hero in his flaws. And Thor is a character who does no wrong. Anything he does is gonna work. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
sort of, and the only time he sort of gets thrown off guard is when Loki shows up. So that's what makes Loki a good villain is that he turns this guy into he makes him imperfect. Uh, a lot of these films are just guys that are badasses, and that it's just a matter of seeing how much more of a badass they can actually be. Like 24 or Pacific Rim, where these guys just strut and pose and stare at the camera, and nothing they
Right.
do works right. Like look at Han Solo, he isn't right. Remember when he was chasing the stormtroopers and they're running away from the stormtroopers and
Right.
like he's trying to like pretend to have a conversation with the prison guard on the microphone, and he screws that up. He just shoots it, out of frustration. Like you need characters who are flawed, and these characters they don't have flaws. Tony Stark had a good flaw in the first Iron Man movie. I felt that they did it right there, and uh, Steve Rogers had a really good flaw in that he was just really weak. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was really weak, and he just didn't know his limits. Like he didn't. I mean, you could say it's good or bad, but it came back to bite him later on when he's doing everything and he lets his friend sort of, you know what I mean? He wasn't watching out for his friend at that point too. So I don't know. There's a lot of good things about that,
Did
but
you? What do you think? I'm sure people can, message in on your podcast and all your other stuff. But what do you think happened to Odin with Loki and Odin?
oh,
If
do
you
you
were,
mean did he kill Odin and take his place?
yeah, or do you think he locked him up? I mean, what do you think?
I guarantee you he's locked up somewhere.
Right.
You know, Loki isn't a guy that likes to murder. Those kinds of people. He likes to torment them.
Would
You
you
know.
would you have liked it better if Loki died for real, or did you like the way it turned out like that?
I would have preferred he just died. You know what I
See,
mean?
that's
Like,
that, that's what I wanted. I wanted just die because then, he's been in what 3 movies now, Thor, both Thors and Avengers. I mean, he's done what he needs to have done. He showed humility to Thor. He's been the villain. I'm like, that would have been a good death. Would have been good. I would have liked it. But
right, but they're never gonna do that. So,
oh no, no, there's too much
the
money to
mom will
make.
come back. Everyone will come back. Yeah.
Right. Just like if Heath Ledger never died, Joker would have probably been in the third movie.
Joker would have been in the third movie if Chris Nolan hadn't. I mean, they had, Warner's had no problem recasting that role. That was Chris Nolan refused to recast. They would have found some actor to take it on, bro. There's always someone willing to rise to that challenge. But that all being said, the movie was fun. I can definitely see how like people overseas might be getting like superhero fatigue. I don't know, dude. I don't know how much more of these movies I can personally take. Um, I
I mean,
think Captain America
it just
looks.
becomes out
I,
trying to out top each other, battle after battle after battle.
you're right. How much destruction porn did we have in this one? And it wasn't the best stuff. The best stuff was when the characters were interacting with one another.
Right, when Loki and Thor are on the boat, fighting like brothers do, and then they both kind of laugh and smile at each other. I thought that was funny because it's just them, like Thor's like, I can beat the shit out of you, but mom wouldn't like that, you know.
And I
And I
can't
like,
figure out how like that dude's sword can take down a whole ship, but they can drive through buildings. You see what I mean? Like this sort of thing.
right,
This sort of thing. The guy can run up, jump on the ship, stab it once, blow the whole ship up. Which okay, And then I don't know, man. Like, and I don't know. You
Hey,
just at that point you have
quit
to let it
thinking
go.
logically here. Just
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, okay, it's fun. It's a fun movie. I was really hoping Natalie Portman would die, but it didn't happen. So wasn't to be.
I, I would, if I had the money, I would make a Natalie Portman spinoff just to piss you off. Just Natalie Portman and the and the and the Thor adventures, and
You
they
laugh,
just go on vacation spots.
but if she had one bad movie, we guarantee you she'd get at least one of those short Marvel films. You know what I mean? She won that Oscar recently, so she's a little above that short film stuff. But I guarantee you, dude, she had a major bomb. If she was in The Lone Ranger, she'd have been doing a Marvel short. You mark my words. So, but whatever. I thought the thing that I thought didn't look as cool as I was hoping it would, and I'm probably the only person, who thinks this. But and this may just be because of, the way it was shot. However, one day, but I don't know about you, man, but the Guardians of the Galaxy thing at the end looked awfully chintzy to me.
It,
Uh,
I would have liked it more if it would have been a broader spectrum of the collector. Like instead of just all you saw was some dude in the background, and then maybe some weird alien chick and a weird. Uh, the thing behind them looked like the character from X Force, that big globby thing with a bunch of holes. But if they would have made it seem like a bigger library of a collection, like Superman's,
I mean, that's the movie. I'm just talking about the way it was shot. Like it just, for some
oh,
reason,
look,
it looked like Comic Con. Um,
quality. Yeah, the quality didn't look as good as
yeah, it had no real like lighting or I don't. I was like, are we
like.
going for Fifth Element here? Because I thought maybe they were gonna go more Star Wars, and it seems more Fifth Element. But I gotta be honest too, to give them some credit. The ending, those little things that they put at the end, those little teasers. I mean, they generally never look like the actual movie that follows up with
Right,
it. So, I mean, Thanos was a pretty goofy special effect last time too, on the
right, and then
Avengers.
it
So,
went, and then it's going nowhere because now the collector is going to be the one going after the Infinity Gems. So I mean,
well, it's going somewhere, but they're gonna drag it out. I mean, it's called Age of Ultron and Avengers 2, dog. You know,
right,
they're not gonna, you know,
right. We'll
Avengers
see
3 will be
Thanos in
Thanos.
Avengers 5.
3. No, you'll see him in 3. Almost guaranteed, dude. You know, almost guaranteed, like
But
99%.
yeah, the collector scene kind of, as what you're saying, it looked a little like raw footage-ish, like a little more gritty than how clean everything else looked throughout the movie and bright. And
It reminded me of a film that I loved when I was a kid, up until the point it went into space. It's called The Explorers. You ever seen that movie? It's
nope.
about these. It's about these kids, right? River Phoenix is in there. Guy who played
Oh
Indiana Jones.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Ethan Hawke when he's a kid, he's in the movie, and so they basically get these instructions in their dreams from aliens, and it lets them build this bubble, right? That that hovers and can trap air. There's no air in there. So basically, they use the bubble to build a spaceship. Um, through maps and stuff in their dreams, and then they go see these aliens, and the whole movie's really great, all the way to the part where they get to the aliens, and these definitely have that alien. The Joe Dante was the director of that. He did like Gremlins and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, it really reminded me of the Explorers when they got on the alien ship, and I was like, oh, that did not have the look I was expecting. So, but that's probably just nitpicky. So.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I thought about the Thor movie. I mean, it's fun to see. The 3D was actually fairly decent in the IMAX. There was like only a couple scenes in the background that were kind of like parallaxing and stuff. So their
Right.
conversion was good. Overall pretty good. So
Ooh,
uh,
I
go
got
ahead.
one last Marvel tidbit that I did not send you a screenshot, but
I saw it
if
though.
if the people who have not seen it, there is a deleted scene for the Wolverine where he has his classic suit, mask, gloves, all that, exactly the way I described how I want it to happen. As a gift from
Well, now you have
the
it. You can let it go, right?
yep, it's exactly what I wanted. It
It's a CG render too, right?
was it really?
Yeah, ZBrush, dude. It's not real.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. But they gave me what I wanted. That's all I wanted. Was just that. Just show me a damn Wolverine mask and him look at it and smirk or whatever. Who gives a shit? He can throw it away. But I've seen it in a movie. That's all I wanted. That's my little Wolverine rant
Good
for
for
that
you.
shitty movie.
Oh, well, you're getting another one.
Well, I'll go see it, but I'll
All
bitch
right,
about
well, only movies left for me are Day of the Doctor. It's on the 25th. Might go see Anchorman 2, depending on the reviews. And The Hobbit, which I'll go see in 48 frames per second because it's a mind blown moment to see that stuff. I still don't know how I feel about it, but I definitely, it's a spectacle, one way or the other. So, all right, Brandon, where on the internet can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at NotWorthASketch. You can find me on Instagram at NotWorthASketch. Facebook is The Art of James. And I believe that is everything you could find Brandon James at. There might be some porn sites out there I might be on. FBI Most Wanted.
Okay, let's not get into that conversation. All right, great.
No,
Okay, you can go ahead.
That's where you can find me.
All right, yeah, too much TMI, bro. TMI. All right, so as always, you can find me at Sketchcraft. That's Sketch, the CRAFT, the name of the podcast.com. Got the Facebooks, got the Twitters, got the YouTubes, got the DeviantArt. All the links are right there. You can email me at rob@sketchcraft, CRAFT, craft, like Minecraft, sketchcraft.com. So we'll make sure we got that right. Please do. And if you like the podcast, please give me a review at iTunes. It does help. With that being said, we will see you all in, not weekly, bi-weekly, right? Yeah. So,
Tell me whenever you
2 weeks
tell me
from
we're
now.
doing it.
2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from whenever you hear this, we'll have another one. All right, cool, bye. Sketchcraft is recorded in front of a live internet audience and supported by listeners like you. Please be sure to leave a review on iTunes, like and share our Facebook page, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All links can be found at sketchcraft.com. That's Sketchcraft, C-R-A-F-T, the name of the podcast.com. Remember, every little bit counts and it all helps to grow the show. Thanks.